Gail of Gaia and co-host Paul Bina have a long chat with JasonQ about a number of subjects concerning current events in the United States and around the world. Here is a short clip of one of the items they were talking about.
So, and they've been getting real chummy with China through the RAND Corporation. We have a big packet, like 500 pages.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand about that is that they sold us out so bad that they actually sold 69 Patriot missiles to China that we gave them to protect them from Iran.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it wasn't so much the missiles.
Was that Israel?
Technology, yes. And it's through the Talpiot program. The Talpiot program is bad because it's all their technology, and they're selling their technologies, but it's not theirs. They're stealing ours. So now, when you have all these people in Congress that have dual citizenships with Israel, what have you effectively done? We have traitors that you're not even faithful to America. Yeah. It's like,
why should they be allowed to have dual citizenship? That's a problem right there.
And being that close to all the documents, like Swalwell and Boebert, I guess she took a swipe at him, which granted, I mean, she should. He's in there, messing around with all these Chinese honeypots and everything. It's like, yeah, she's calling him out. And he's telling like these big tech places to to essentially censor her. Because he even said, he's like, she has the right to remain silent. And he's like, I think she should definitely just, take that way. I'm like,
she's not even in the country anymore. She disappeared.
Yeah, Boebert, the representative, I believe, from Colorado, and she teed off on him. I'm like, I do not blame her one bit, and she should. It's like, you're a traitor. It's like, why are you here? And then, not to mention, I mean, in the intel, it's like, how much intelligence were you guys giving these people? Because we already know that California, all their colleges, especially Stanford actually had a China program. we have all that, yeah. And being friends with China. I mean, even San Francisco with Feinstein as a mayor, they became sister cities with Shanghai. I'm like,
really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, and then you have Jimmy Carter. Everybody loved Carter, just peanut farmer. Well,
he's a traitor too, isn't he?
Oh yeah. 1978. I think it was 78. Because it's all about Taiwan. Because Taiwan was sovereign. They were own people. They weren't hurting anybody. But you had the Republic of China, and then you also had the People's Republic of China. That's the communists. That's the CCP. Well, England did it in 1950, where they turned their back on Taiwan, the sovereign, and they took sides with the People's Republic of China. So essentially, sovereignty is gone, and you move the Chinese in. That's just England. Now, was a couple, 28, 29 years later, 1978, 79, Carter did the same thing. It's like, why are we giving them access to anything within us? And then you start seeing how many spies there are. And then you have all these spies from Israel, and they're infiltrating us. They're stealing all of our secrets, all of our weapon data. It's like they talk about the Awans. You don't hear anything about that anymore. But one of the Awans, he actually went through the Talpiot program in Israel. Now, the Talpiot program, what it is that it's a 9-year, it's like a school. The first 3 years are, like military, right? The second 3 years, it's all computers, hacking, all the IT stuff. And then the third, you just say trimester, you're mixing them both. So essentially what you're building is, the Talpiot program, they're building their whole Israeli forces, which is the Mossad, and they're essentially just coming back and infiltrating us, stealing from us, selling, weapons. We gave you these to protect yourself from Iran. So if you turn around and sold them, because they were only going to Shanghai, and not to mention the Finland, their cops got them. And the name of the ship was the MS Thor Liberty. Yeah. And
Interesting.
yeah, and the
Oh my
captain
God.
and the co-captain, they're both from the Ukraine.
Oh,
I was like,
goody.
huh.
So this was the what program?
Well, the Talpiot program that started back in Talpiot. What it was that was the shroud that they said that Jesus was wrapped in. They called it like Talpiot, but the Talpiot program, like they take something like everybody's like, oh yeah, that's cute. It's like no, they dug in there, embedded, it's pure evil. So what they were doing was they were creating this let me say like this school that they could have all these their own spies from all over, because literally what they've done is like the Ashkenazis, the Khazarians, like everybody's from different areas, but then they all say, oh well, we're Jews. It's like, but Judaism is a religion.
Yeah, it's not a race. A lot of people don't realize that.
The Talpiot program.
Yes, Talpiot
Sounds
program.
to me like toilet program is closer to what it should be, because this is some shit right here.
Well, the thing is that it's so big that I think every year for the last 27 years, they've actually had a company, go on the big board like a NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, stuff like that. So they were like building all these startups. Well, it's like people are like, oh, it's just a little startup. It's okay. No big deal. But it's also you're spying and hacking on everybody. And when people understand that, how it began was Raphael Etan. That's one of BB's best buddies. What they did was they actually infiltrated NUMEC, is a corporation in Pennsylvania, where they were mining uranium. And you know how all uranium, well, you have uranium or plutonium, but it has a specific signature for where it's from. Well, what they found in Pennsylvania at the NUMEC site, they can't find this anywhere in the world, this specific grade. So Raphael Etan and a couple other people, they were over here and they were stealing the uranium from us, taking it back to Israel, and they were building nukes. Well, weapons, because a nuclear weapon you can't really use. It's not even real because it's moving. It has to be actually stationary to actually work. So
didn't their evil playbook, so to speak, include that something to do with that uranium one, and they were going to blame it on Russia, and they were going to start a nuclear exchange?
Yep. And what they did was they took those D5s, the submarines, the Dolphin class submarines that they got from Germany. Because what we found here was, and I know people are just like thumbing through all these documents, but we have to, in order to because I don't want to misspeak or get something wrong, because we're actually conveying information. So if I can, if we can get the correct information out, that's what we like to do.
Right. We like to keep it as correct as possible. Yes. I mean, sometimes even we can be misled. We're not perfect, but that's one of the benefits of having, a number of people working on this, because, somebody might find something that somebody else didn't find, and you put the pieces together and then you get the whole picture.
Well, I'm sorry. Wasn't the Uranium One deal where they sold control of 20% of our uranium to Russia, but they skimmed some of the uranium off the top and shuffled it off somewhere else to actually make bombs out of it that would have the radioactive signature of the uranium that Russia got. So
Yes.
if they wanted to plant a false flag and melt a
Exactly.
few cities in the United States, as soon
And
as
blame
they
it on
a
Russia.
radioactive signature, they would be able to blame it on Russia and Putin, and then they could declare war on Russia.
Yep.
It was
Exactly.
all that was all planned. It was all during the Malheur Game Reserve. They were taking over land in
That involved the
Nevada
Bundys.
and Oregon and like the Malheur Game Reserve. It was like right next to where the uranium was being mined, and also on that land was a cave that had Masonic symbols over the opening of the cave. It was where they did Masonic rituals and ceremonies. And that's why they wanted to keep that land. So they essentially stole it under the guise of the Bureau of Land Management. But it was all convoluted together with Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Uranium One, Russia, the deep state, the radical left. It was all just a big mess.
Well, what they did also, Paul, is if you notice, they made a clear roadway. Then that's NAFTA.
Yeah, the
They made
next
it clear-
American family traded
Exactly.
away.
Yeah, and from Canada all the way to Mexico is like they gave them a straight highway, because on federal land they cannot carry weapons. So they were just funnel them right through there. Come on through.
Yeah, and guess what was in the way of that highway? Guess what was in the way that had to go? The Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas.
The what? Say that again. I'm sorry.
It was in the way. The Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. The Waco slaughter. That land was in the way of that.
Oh my God. It just doesn't quit. You can't make this stuff up.
You cannot make this shit up. You can't.
They said we can't be that creative.
Not with the wildest, not with the wildest imagination. You cannot make this up.
Yeah.
Also, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
when you mentioned Bureau of Land Management, any other acronyms come to mind with that? BLM? Yeah.
Yeah, BLM.
Yeah, they do it.
Yeah, Black
That's how it
Lives
is,
Matter.
Yeah.
And once they realize
And it has
that,
not, very little, if any, it has nothing to do with Black Lives.
Yeah, well,
But they fool people into thinking that it does.
It's two evil entities with the same name, run by the same people, for slightly different purpose.
Yeah. And they sure didn't want that wall up either, because that would interfere with their drug trafficking, their human trafficking, their child trafficking, you name it.
Apparently,
that's why they didn't want that wall.
Apparently, Phoenix is the second largest child trafficking hub in the world.
Well, what do you expect? Where the state in which No Name was from?
Yeah.
Well, and look who the mayor was. The mayor was a Rothschild.
Yep, and still is in
is he?
Tucson.
Man,
still is. Yeah.
They ought to check the voting machines over there.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to know
there were.
Anybody? I'm sorry. Me again. Anybody that wants to know why the left hates Trump, okay, he's doing away with all of their black operation projects, their secret projects. He's shining the light on the military-industrial complex. He's putting an end to child trafficking. He's stopping the illegal immigration, which feeds that. He's stopping the drug trade, because the wall is stopping the drug trade, slowing. Most of the drugs that are sold in the United States and in the world, for that matter, are actually come from the CIA. The CIA.
Yeah, they're brought in here by the CIA. Yeah, and they set people up and they do all sorts of things, and then that brings to a whole other subject of why they set people up and why they send them to prison. It all relates to money.
Yeah, exactly. So they bring in the drugs, okay? They find people to peddle the drugs. They make money on the drugs. The people that peddle the drugs peddle them to people that get arrested. The arrestees get run through the legal system, they have to liquidate every single asset and any personal wealth that they and their immediate to extended family have for their defense. They wind up getting railroaded. They go to prison. Their sentence is securitized. It's traded on the stock market, and their relatives that want to talk to them or want to give them things that they need to survive, like maybe a tablet so they don't go crazy with nothing to do, like junk food from the vending machine, because they're feeding them meat that is clearly labeled not for human consumption. Okay. Yes. So the family has to continue pouring money into the system. Wall Street's making money. The CIA's making money. The state prison system, the corporation that runs the prison, is making money.
Yep.
And we're getting screwed.
Yes, and the people have been programmed by different TV shows and so on to have no empathy and no sympathy for anybody that ends up in that system, because it's you did the crime, you should do the time, kind of thing.
You do the crime, you do the time. Yeah.
And the time in the state of Arizona where this grotesque goings on go on, there's no good time. They make sure they do. I think it's 85% of their time minimum, no time if not all of their time, because they're drawing from their birth bonds.
And guess who they're locking up?
Insurance companies are. Yeah. I remember reading one time, this was a couple of years ago too, that there was a undercover cop who actually had a conscience because they were setting people up. And it was the judges, the prosecutors, and law enforcement working together.
They always
we got a lot of bad apples.
They always got a bag or two in the trunk of their car. They always got a weapon or two that's got no serial number on it that they can plant. They can do whatever they want to keep their own ass out of trouble and keep their ticket books empty. But that's another thing. What kind of people do you think they're locking up? They're concentrating on lower level and drug offenders, somebody that is shoplifting, or somebody that gets caught with a bag of weed or caught with a joint or two. They lock them up, because if you were running a prison and you had to hire a staff and pay for the security to keep those prisoners in there, and you had 1,000 cells, what would you rather have in there? Rapists, murderers, blue collar workers that have, or white collar crime bosses that have connections to the outside world? Or would you rather have just a bunch of druggies that basically left themselves to their own defenses and didn't bother nobody? I'm just in here doing my time. I got caught with my bag. I'm just in here doing my time. I didn't kill nobody. I ain't a danger to society, but I'm still in here for 64 fucking
no rehab, no anything that amounts to anything. Then when they get out, they got a felony. They can't get a job. Trying to get a job, trying to get housing, trying to get all that stuff is next to impossible. And if people don't have family to help them, they're really stuck.
And guess where they go?
It's so diabolical, it's not even funny.
And guess where they go? They go right back into the system to be securitized again.
And you have to wonder what kind of mind control goes on, because there's tunnels underneath those jails and prisons too.
Oh yeah. Well, also with the prisons, when you say you're buying stuff made in USA, with that label, well, where's it coming from? Yep, prisoners. Now, when you
make it 13
cheap labor.
And then when these people are close to their parole date, oh look, contraband. You got 6 more months.
Yeah,
and they usually do it to the minorities.
Exactly what they do. Yes,
they usually do it to the minorities, and they keep them in there because it's like they think that if they work hard, they'll get out, and these wardens and the system lies to them blatantly. But here's where we need to step back and say, okay, well, everybody, people that want to work, they're going to work. But if there's no jobs, well, where are these jobs? There's no jobs for people. Well, are building all this. And then you look overseas and they have all these kids building this stuff. It's like just the moral compass, the moral fabric of the world is just completely flipped upside down. And we just got to, flip it right back up and understand that, when they mention China, mention Israel. You might as well clump them in too.
The moral fabric of this country is frayed, seriously frayed.
Yes.
And so the deep state right now, they're afraid, very afraid.
Yeah.
No, not afraid, just frayed.
They're going to be afraid, though, too. There's panic in D.C. right now. They're saying that all the time, and rightly so.
Because of the censorship on this platform, we cannot upload the full video here. It is already up at gailofgaia.com. When you get there, click on Continue Reading to go to the page with the videos.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail of Gaia. I'm the founder and producer of Free Range. I do my best to bring you the best in guests and information that's very relevant to you today. I'm making this short little clip today in order to ask you to please contribute to the channel. I'm not monetized by YouTube, I don't sell any products, and I don't have Patreon. So I depend upon your contributions. And I know everyone's having a tough time, but even a small amount from a number of people would help tremendously. So thank you, please contribute. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I do need your help. Thank you.